Professional ethics and standards is the topic of my presentation today. Uh, what I intend to do, friends, obviously make this session an interactive one. Professional ethics and standards are extremely valuable or significant for every one of us. Now, before I start discussing about professional ethics and standards, let me compliment all of you for having to decide to pursue the profession of valuation. And why is that? Because as valuation professional, we are going to add really tremendous value for the entire decision making process by the corporate world. Uh, all the economic activities which are done by the businesses across the globe uh, are really coming from the corporate, whether manufacturing or service, and that's where we add tremendous value. So, my congratulations and compliment to all of you for having to decide to pursue this profession of valuation. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to discuss with you some of the things as you can see them on your screen. So, we would begin with number one, the three major reforms of recent past from the perspective of professionals. I'm sure all of us are aware. Uh, First time ever in the history of this country since independence, three major economic reforms that have taken place from the perspective of the professionals like chartered accountants, cost accountants, company secretaries, lawyers, and MBAs are the one. Number one is the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. Number two is the valuation rules, and number three is the independent director. It has never happened in the past, and it is first time that it has happened, that the government of India has placed tremendous amount of trust, confidence, and faith in the professionals, and that faith, trust, and confidence has been placed by the government of India in we professionals with some expectation. And what is that some expectation? That expectation is all of us being professional. Among other things, one thing that we would ensure, and that is pursuance of ethics and professional standards in every transaction, in every dealing that we do as a valuation professional, or as a chartered accountant, or as a cost accountant, or as a company secretary, or as a lawyer. So it's not that the government of India has brought out these reforms because they were worried about the income stream of these professionals. No, the government of India has brought out these reforms and posed this trust, faith, and confidence in the professionals because the government of India expects that these professionals will really ensure that there is a compliance with the governance, and not only there is a compliance with the good governance, but also there is a pursuance of ethics and professional standards. In this context, friends, let us understand what is the meaning of ethics. So, if I can ask all of you, and in case you would like to answer, any one of you can please unmute yourself. Can you can you please unmute yourself, Romesh? Okay. So, anyone who would like to tell me as to what do you understand by ethics? Anyone? You can unmute yourself, or you can write in the chat box.
Boss, ethics means study of what is right, what is wrong in human behavior.
Human behavior. Okay. Very good. Very good. What else? What else? What else?
Am I right?
Go ahead.
Like beliefs about the what is morally corrected or accepted.
What is morally corrected or accepted is ethics. Okay. Very good. One more. One more person. What is ethics?
Am I right?
Okay, so it's not the question of right or wrong. I just wanted to get to know as to what all of you, what perception all of you have about the this concept of ethics. Okay, so thank you. Yes, please. Okay, so friends, what is ethics? It is very simple. It is very simple. Ethics is doing what you are supposed to be doing and not doing what you are not supposed to be doing is ethics. It is as simple as that. Doing something, so what we are supposed to be doing, we are supposed to be creating value for everyone. So if we are creating value for everyone, that means we are being ethical. And we are not supposed to be destroying value for anyone. So if we are destroying value for anyone, that means we are being unethical. And this is a global definition, friends, that I thought I would share with you as far as ethics are concerned. So doing what you're supposed to be doing and not doing what you're not supposed to be doing is ethics. Now, what is business ethics or what is a professional ethics? So once we understand what is ethics, it becomes very easy for us to understand what is a professional ethics or what is a business ethics. So what a business is supposed to be doing, if that business is doing those things, if that business is doing those things, that means that business is being ethical. And if a business is doing things that it is not supposed to be doing, and that means it is being unethical. And what is applicable to business is applicable to a professional also. So as a chartered accountant, cost accountant, company secretary, lawyer, doctor, engineer, architect, or whatever profession that I may be in, what I am supposed to be doing, if I am doing all that, excuse me, somebody's okay. So if as a professional, if I'm doing that, that means I'm being ethical. And if I'm doing something which I'm not supposed to be doing as a professional, that is I'm being I'm following unethical behavior in my profession. And that is how we would differentiate between the business and business ethics and the professional ethics. Friends, if we have to understand what is ethics, if we have to understand what is professional ethics or business ethics, what we need to understand, we need to understand what is purpose of a business. What is purpose of a business? And I know based on my experience, if I ask you this question as to what is the purpose of a business, I'm sure most of the answers that I would receive is to make profit. Is to make profit. And let me tell you, friends, that is completely wrong. It is not wrong, it is completely wrong. Purpose of a business is not to make profit. And why do I say so? I say so because if the purpose of a business is to make profit, then we would not see a company called Google. Why? Larry Page and Sergey Brin, the founders of Google, within first few years of their operations started making profit. And they would have said, purpose of a business is to make profit. We have made profit. Purpose is achieved. Let us close the business. If the purpose of a business was to make profit, we would not see a company called Apple. And why is that? Because Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, the founders of Apple, started making profit within first few years of the operations of Apple. And they would have said the same thing, that the purpose of a business is to earn profit. We have earned profit. Purpose is achieved. Let us close the business. If the purpose of a business was to make profit, please remember, we would not see a group called ArcelorMittal. And why is that so? Because the founder of ArcelorMittal, Mr. Lakshminivas Mittal, started making profit within first few years of the operations of the business. And he would have said the same thing, that the purpose of a business is to make profit. Profit I have made, purpose is achieved, let us close the business. And therefore, friends, please remember, purpose of a business is not to make profit. And why do I say this? I say this because making profit in business is compulsory. Making profit in business is mandatory. Making profit in business is not a matter of choice. Making profit in business is not a matter of an option. If you are in business, you better make profit. And that is why I say, friends, that the purpose of a business is not to make profit, because if you are in business, you have to make profit. You have to make profit. As a matter of fact, if you are in business and you are not making profit, least that you can do, hand that business over to somebody who can run it and make profit out of it. And that is the understanding that we ought to have as far as the profit is concerned. And please remember, all of us, you would know in any case, because today there is a law in this country. And what is the law in this country? The law in this country is that if a company is not paying to its operational creditors or to financial creditors on time, then this company or the management of this company or the owners of this company have no right to own this company, and therefore this company has to go to NCLT, and the board of directors got to be suspended, and so are the shareholders of the company. So the ownership of this company changes. Ownership of a company which is not making profit changes and is given to someone who can run it profitably. And that is what we need to remember, that purpose of a business is not to make profit. If you are in business, you better make profit. Then the question is, what is purpose of a business? And friends, answer of course is very simple. Doesn't really matter as to where your business is, doesn't really matter as to where your business is, doesn't really matter as to which part of the world you are, what kind of product you make, what kind of industry you are in, what kind of organizational structure that you have for your business. It doesn't really matter. Every business and any business has got only one single purpose, and that one single purpose is to create value. Every business across the globe has got only one purpose, and that is to create value. That is to create value. And let's understand, what is the meaning of creating value? Meaning of creating value is to do things so as to make this world a better place to live than what it was yesterday. Please remember, every business and any business, what is a business? Business is an engine. Business is an engine to bring socio-economic transformation of the society, and that is what we need to remember. If we remember this as to what is the purpose of a business, then it becomes very easy for us to understand what is ethics and what are the professional standards. Now from this perspective, friends, let's move forward. Having understood what is purpose of a business, and I'm repeating it once again, and remember, the purpose of a business is not to make profit. Profit in business you have to make. Then what is the purpose of a business? Purpose of a business is to create value. And how do you create value? You create value by
Hello?
you create value by converting resources into result and result into resources, right? So you create value by converting resources into result and result into resources. So what is purpose of a business? Purpose of a business is to create value by making profit, or make profit by creating value. Now friends, once we understand as to what is the purpose of a business, it becomes very easy for us to understand the relationship between the purpose of a business, ethics and good governance. I am sure, friends, you can very easily understand all the problems that we have in the society, or in the businesses, or in the economy of the country. All the problems, the reason behind is overemphasis on making profit. So anyone, please remember, anyone who is trying to make profit without creating value, he is being unethical. A corrupt officer, a corrupt politician, a corrupt executive, a corrupt bureaucrat, anyone who is corrupt, what is he doing? He is trying to make profit for himself without really contributing anything from his side. And therefore, what is ethic? Ethic is to create value, is to make profit by creating value. Do something before you think in terms of getting something in return for yourself. If you are doing this, you are being ethical. If you are not doing it, you are not being ethical. And that is the relationship between with the corporate governance and ethics and purpose of a business. So obviously, if a business is creating value by making profit, or if a business is making profit by creating value, obviously he is giving something to the society, he is giving something to the economy, and that means he is being ethical. On the contrary, if a business is trying to make profit without really giving anything to the economy or to the society, he is being unethical. And the classic example that we see is Mehul Choksi. or your Nirav Modi or Vijay Mallya. Now you can understand what was their driver. Their driver was only to make profit by hook or crook without bothering as to whether they are creating value or they are not creating value. And please remember what happens to such businessmen, and you all know such businessmen rot outside the country in some jail somewhere. And that is the relationship between the purpose of a business and ethics and corporate governance. So if a business is following the purpose of a business, that is creating value by making profit or making profit by creating value, that business by default is being ethical. That business by default is following the good governance. Since friends, we all are professional, and we also need to understand not only as to what is purpose of a business, we also need to understand and become aware as to what is purpose of our life. Is purpose of our life is to spend all the time that we have running behind the money and one day leave that money behind and live our life in misery? Is that the purpose of life? Or the purpose of life is same as the purpose of a business, and that is the purpose of life is to do the things that will help this world become a better place to live than what it was yesterday. I am sure all of you would agree with me that the purpose of life of every one of us is also same, is to work to make this world a better place to live than what it was yesterday. And remember friends, the moment we understand that I'm here on this earth not to amass wealth for myself, not to run after the money and waste my life. I'm here on this earth to live my life with a purpose, with a big purpose. I'm here to live my life in making positive difference in the life of everyone. And remember, the moment my driver is how to make things better for everyone, how to make this world a better place to live, once this is my driver, I do not have to worry about ethics. And why do not I have to worry about ethics? Because my behavior, my conduct by default will be completely ethical. Now, one more question that we need to understand, and that question is why it is necessary to follow ethics in life. क्यों जरूरी है for every one of us to follow ethics? And friends, it's very simple and you can very easily understand and imagine. Just think, just think every human being, every person on this earth, irrespective of geography, if every person on this earth is unethical in his conduct and his behavior, can you imagine what will happen on this earth? Everybody is unethical. What will happen to this earth? This earth will become a burning hell that in that very moment. And also imagine if everyone on this earth, everyone on this earth is ethical in his conduct and his behavior, and I'm sure you can understand what will happen to this earth. In that very moment, this earth will become a heaven for everyone. Please understand, today whatever problems that we see around is nothing but an outcome of an unethical behavior on the part of few people. And these few people need to understand that this behavior of theirs is ultimately digging a grave for themselves also, because ultimately if everybody becomes unethical, everybody is going to be in trouble. And that is the reason, friends, why we have to be ethical, why everybody has to be ethical. We professionals, chartered accountants, cost accountants, company secretaries, lawyers, architects, and engineers, all of us have this responsibility. And what responsibility? Responsibility to set an example for everyone else to follow as far as ethics are concerned. As far as the ethics are concerned, and please remember, that is why you have this qualification requirement of valuation rules. That is why we have to pass an exam or valuation exam. And that is why, please remember, there is a course, as part of the course curriculum, we have a topic of ethics and professional standards. So that is why it is necessary for everyone to follow ethics. Now the question is, who is a professional? Because we are talking about the professional ethics and standards. So if we have to talk about professional ethics and professional standards, we also need to understand who is a professional. Is a person becomes a professional merely because he becomes a doctor, merely because he becomes an engineer, merely because he qualifies to be an architect, merely because he qualifies to become to be a chartered accountant, cost accountant, or company secretary, or an MBA, or a lawyer? The answer is no. You, by acquiring these qualification, you become a qualified person. But you and I become professional only when we follow ethics. So remember, a person is a professional not because not because he's got some qualification. A person is professional because he is professing ethics in his conduct and his behavior. And that is why all of us can call ourselves to be a professional when we start professing ethics in our conduct and in our behavior. Life may be a difficult. Please remember, life may be a difficult when you follow ethics, or when you follow standards, professional standards. It may be difficult, but it will be extremely satisfying. And please remember, the moment a person resorts to unethical conduct, he is going into the cesspool and the quicksand of deterioration of his life. Because the moment you resort to unethical behavior, unethical practice, it looks to be very good in the beginning, but then you are in the cesspool, you are in the quicksand, and every time you try more, you go deeper into it. And so, who is a professional? Professional is someone who is professing ethics and professional standards. And that is the responsibility, friends, that every one of us have. So, what are the role and responsibilities of professionals? Very simple. As chartered accountants, cost accountants, company secretaries, lawyers, doctors, engineers, architects, as professional, we have a bigger responsibility than the rest of the people. And why? Because the rest of the people can be blamed to be unaware for the need of ethical behavior, but not we professional. All the professions that I'm talking about, in our code of conduct, there is always a focus on the ethics. There is always a focus on the ethics. So our role and responsibility as a valuation professional, as an insolvency professional, as a doctor, engineer, chartered accountant, cost accountant, company secretary, lawyer, architect, we have a responsibility, and that responsibility is to become an example as far as following the ethics are concerned, and as far as following the professional behavior or standards are concerned. Having discussed this, friend, I'm going to discuss with you the model code of conduct for the registered valuers. So all of you know that registered valuation rules that we have, as part of the valuation rule, there is also model code of conduct that all of us are expected to follow. And please remember and become aware, this model code of conduct does not give us the boundary. This model code of conduct does not say that this is what you have to do. Anything beyond this you can do. And that is not correct. Please remember, the model code of conduct only tells this is the minimum that we have to follow. And remember, it is not even a minimum that we have to follow. The model code of conduct gives us an idea as to what kind of ethics and the professional standards we have to follow. So it just gives us an indicative idea. It just give us a feel of it. And it means what? It means ultimately the ethics is a call of conscience. So anytime anything which is to be done, if your conscience tells you no, it should not be done, this is not right to do, then we should not do. Whether it is mentioned in the model code of conduct or it is not mentioned in the model code of conduct, doesn't really matter. And that is what is the role of a professional, and that is what is a leadership, because that is what then people start following you. Look, this is how it should be done, and this is how he's doing it. And let me tell you, friends, it may, as I said earlier, it may appear slightly difficult in the beginning, but as we adhere to it, we start becoming an example for rest. And please remember, when we start becoming an example for rest, when we start creating value, the value automatically starts coming to us. And that is what we need to remember. So I will discuss with you the model code of conduct for registered valuers also, but I'm repeating it once again. Please remember, there are 8 headings in that model code of conduct and 29 different clauses as part of the model code of conduct. But remember, these headings or these clauses are only indicators. These headings and these are only indicators, and they only tell you an idea, and it's not that it is the exhaustive model code of conduct. That means only this much we have to follow, beyond it everything we can do. No, it's not so. And one more thing that I would like to share with you before I move over, principles of karma and the need to follow ethics. And remember, it goes hand in hand. It goes hand in hand. I am sure गीता में भगवान कृष्ण ने कहा है, कर्मण्यवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन, बहुत क्लियर शब्दों में कहा है। और उन्होंने ये भी कहा है गीता में कि जैसा कर्म करोगे वैसा फल देगा भगवान। सो कर्म, जैसा हमारा कर्म होगा वैसा हमारा फल होगा। एंड दैट इज व्हाट वी नीड टू रिमेंबर। एंड प्लीज रिमेंबर, कृष्णा हैज सेड दिस thousands and thousands of years ago. And why has he said that? He has given us a guideline. And what is the guideline? Guideline is, he's saying that do good karma and the result will follow automatically. And he's also saying that if you do bad karmas, the result is going to bound to be bad. And remember, this universe, this existence is completely automated. There is nothing more automatic than this existence. There is nothing more automatic than this existence. This existence is fantastic. And the accounting of this existence, remember, is even more fantastic. We hear nowadays something called cloud accounting. And remember, the best example of the cloud accounting is the accounting done by this existence. And that is what we need to remember, the karma theory. Ultimately, whatever we, as they say, as you sow, so you reap. And we should not forget that. And that is the reason we have to remember that the ethics and the karma are closely interconnected. Now, before I move forward and discuss with you as to from where to learn the ethics, which are the examples of ethics that we can follow, let me quickly tell you a little bit about myself. So I worked in the industry for 20 years as company secretary, CFO, legal head. Gained rich experience of different functions, and in August 2004 changed my track. So having worked in the corporate for 20 years as CFO and company secretary, I thought we get this life only once, so we should always do things that we love and like. Teaching and training was very close to my heart, so I said, okay, let me leave my job for 2 years, do teaching and training, and after 2 years come back to the industry once again. But I was enjoying it so much that the idea of the idea of going back to the industry never crossed my mind, and I continued to be in the teaching and training, as much as one day I got an offer from a company called ArcelorMittal, which I am sure all of you would know is world's largest steel company and mining company. I was with them for 6 years. In those 6 years, delivered my training programs on a variety of topics across the globe in more than 50 locations of all locations of ArcelorMittal. And in those 6 years, traveled the globe 4 times. And then again, I thought life is becoming monotonous, so I must do something different. And as a result of that, I decided to practice as a chartered accountant. Then I saw the insolvency coming in, and I became a qualified insolvency professional, and doing few assignments on insolvency, more on the voluntary liquidation side. Then the evaluation came, and I also qualified for the evaluation. And today my focus is primarily on the evaluation. Then I'm also on the board of a company, because I'm also qualified independent director. I'm on the board of a company called Suratwala Business Group Limited, which is a BSE listed company. I'm there on the board of this company as independent director. I'm on the board of Pune Business School on the governing body. Have got 16 different qualifications that includes chartered accountancy, cost accountancy, CMA, PGDFA, CFA, MBA, and LLB. I'm a regular practitioner of yoga, meditation, and pranayam, and the idea behind sharing this with every one of you is, remember, the purpose of life is to create value, and for creating value, you have to keep yourself fit and fine all the time. So regular practitioner of yoga, meditation, and pranayam. Not only practice it by myself, but I have also conducted yoga, meditation, and pranayam sessions all over the world. Regularly, I'm running marathon, enjoying cycling, and also the game of tennis, squash, and golf. I was president of Rotary Club of Pune North in 2007-2008. Got a GSC scholarship, and have authored two books. One is Finance for Value Creation, and the other book is You Are a Born a Winner. So these are the two books that I have authored, and I also have a YouTube channel. And on that YouTube channel, I have posted more than 900 videos from my past training programs, including 347 videos on various aspects of valuation also. So this is, friends, all about me. Let us now come back as to how to understand and from whom to understand what is ethic and what is professional standards. So, friends, if we have to understand ethics and good governance and professional standards, we can understand from the history of this country and a distant history of this country. So, if we have to understand what is ethic, we can understand from Swami Samarth. And I'm sure all of you will know Swami Samarth was the guru of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. Once Swami Samarth was going from one place to another place, and he was passing through the agriculture fields. And those agriculture fields where he was passing, there were some sugarcane fields also. So when Swami Samarth was passing, he felt little tired and that's why he sat down and he was resting. So when he was resting, he saw suddenly one person came running from the other side, and उसने क्या किया, उसने गन्ने के खेत में से एक गन्ना उखाड़ा और स्वामी समर्थ के ऊपर ताबड़तोड़ वो गन्ने से उन्होंने स्वामी जी को हमला कर दिया. Swami ji could not understand as to what was Swami Samarth could not understand as to what was wrong with this man. And Samarth was very strong person. उन्होंने तुरंत वो किसान को, वो जो आदमी था, he was a farmer, उसको पकड़ा, उसके हाथ से गन्ना छुड़ाया and asked him, hey man, what's wrong with you? What are you doing this? Why are you doing this? And that farmer understood, realized his mistake. वो समर्थ के पैरों में पड़ा, उसने कहा स्वामी जी मुझे क्षमा करें, मुझसे गलती हो गई. दरअसल बात यह है कि पिछले कई दिनों से कोई आदमी रोजाना मेरे खेत में से गन्ने उखाड़ के खा के चला जाता है और मेरा खेत छोटा सा है, मेरा परिवार बड़ा है, 2 मेरे माता पिता हैं, 4 मेरे बच्चे हैं, मेरी बीबी है, 8 लोग हमारे परिवार में हैं, छोटा सा हमारा खेत है. अगर इस तरह से कोई आदमी रोजाना मेरे खेत के गन्ने खा के चला जाएगा तो मेरे पास कुछ बचेगा नहीं, और अगर मेरे पास कुछ बचेगा नहीं तो मैं मेरे परिवार का पालन पोषण कैसे करूंगा. अभी जब मैंने आपको देखा और आपके पास में ये चूसे हुए गन्नों के छिलके जो पड़े थे, तो मुझे लगा हो ना हो आप ही वही इंसान हैं, और इसलिए मैंने गलती से आपको धोखे से गलती से आपको सब गलत समझा और मैंने आपके ऊपर ये हमला किया. स्वामी जी मुझे क्षमा करें, मुझसे गलती हुई, मुझसे भूल हुई. समर्थ सेड, डोंट वरी, बट नेक्स्ट टाइम बी केयरफुल. बिफोर यू डू एनीथिंग ऑफ दिस काइंड, जस्ट मेक श्योर दैट वॉट एवर यू आर डूइंग इज राइट. Saying this, Swami Samarth went away, and so did the farmer. But remember, Samarth was the master of Chhatrapati Shivaji. This news that a farmer attacked Swami Samarth reached to the ears of Chhatrapati Shivaji like a fire in the jungle. And when Chhatrapati Shivaji came to know of this, he was furious. He asked his police people, उन्होंने सिपाहियों को कहा कि जाओ ये जो बदमाश किसान है जिसने मेरे गुरु के ऊपर हमला किया, उसको पकड़ के लेके आओ. So the people, the Shivaji's men went and to the village and caught him and brought him in front of Chhatrapati Shivaji. Chhatrapati Shivaji asked him, is it true that you hit my guru with sugarcane? The farmer, having realized his mistake, folded his hands and he said, महाराज क्षमा करें, मुझसे गलती हो गई, मुझे मालूम नहीं था. Chhatrapati Shivaji said, no, you have not committed a mistake, you have not committed a blunder, you have committed a big crime and you have hit my master, my guru, so you deserve to be punished severely for it, and that is why I am giving you sentence for life imprisonment. and he asked his people to put him in the jail. And as he was ordered, all his police people put him in the jail. Now, this news also, like fire in the jungle, reached to the ears of Swami Samarth. Swami Samarth was having his meal when somebody went and told him that this is what has happened. स्वामी समर्थ के हाथ में एक कौर था, वो मुंह की तरफ लेकर जा रहे थे. जैसे ही उन्होंने ये खबर सुनी, वो उन्होंने कौर वहीं थाली में रखा, खड़े हुए और वो स्वामी समर्थ शिवाजी छत्रपति शिवाजी के दरबार में पहुंच गए. जैसे ही छत्रपति शिवाजी ने समर्थ को देखा, छत्रपति शिवाजी खड़े हो गए और उन्होंने कहा, गुरुदेव, आपने क्यों तकलीफ की? आपने मुझे हुक्म किया होता, मैं आपके घर पर आ जाता आपसे मिलने के लिए. समर्थ ने कहा, नहीं शिवा, इतना समय नहीं था मेरे पास. मैंने सुना है कि तुमने एक गरीब किसान को कैदी बनाया है. शिवा की त्योरियां चढ़ गईं और शिवा ने कहा, हाँ गुरुदेव, आपने बिल्कुल सही सुना है, क्योंकि मुझे मालूम पड़ा कि इस बदमाश किसान ने आपके ऊपर गन्नों से हमला किया और इस आदमी को तो जेल होना ही चाहिए. समर्थ ने कहा, नहीं शिवा, ये तुमने अच्छा नहीं किया, ये तुमने अच्छा नहीं किया. शिवाजी सेड, गुरुदेव, ये आप क्या कह रहे हैं? एंड समर्थ बोले, यस, what you have done is not right, Shiva. This man is a poor man. Please understand. छोटा सा इसका खेत है, बड़ा इसका परिवार है. इसने जो कुछ भी किया, मुझ पर जो हमला किया, वो गलत फहमी में किया. इसीलिए शिवा, इसको सजा मत दो. इफ एट ऑल यू वॉन्ट टू गिव हिम समथिंग, यू गिव हिम, उसको 20, 30, 40 बीघा जमीन दो, ताकि उसका खेत बड़ा हो सके. उसका खेत बड़ा होगा तो वो ज़्यादा फसल कर पाएगा. ज़्यादा फसल कर पाएगा तो अपने परिवार का ख्याल रख पाएगा. अपने परिवार का ख्याल रख पाएगा तो फिर उसको आगे कभी उसके मन में किसी व्यक्ति के ऊपर इस तरह से हमला करने का विचार नहीं आएगा. शिवाजी ने कहा, महाराज, गुरुदेव, मुझसे गलती हुई, मुझे क्षमा करें. और शिवाजी ने तुरंत उस किसान को जेल से आज़ाद करवाया और उसको 40 बीघा ज़मीन देके उसको फ्री किया. दिस इज कॉल्ड एथिक्स. And this is where we can learn what is ethics. This is what we can learn from ethics. If we have to learn ethics, we learn ethics from Chanakya. Chanakya, we all have heard of Chanakya. चाणक्य एक दिन शाम का समय था, अंधेरा छाया हुआ था और अपने काम में व्यस्त थे. पास में एक दीपक जल रहा था और उस दीपक के उजाले में चाणक्य काम करते थे. तभी कुछ गांव के लोग वहां पहुंचे. उन्होंने चाणक्य को प्रणाम किया और चाणक्य से कहा कि गुरुदेव, हमें आपसे कुछ काम है, उसके बारे में आपसे मिलना है. चाणक्य ने कहा, ठहरो, जरा विश्राम करो, बैठ जाओ, मैं थोड़ा कुछ काम कर रहा हूँ, ये काम खत्म करके फिर आपसे बात करता हूँ. वो जो गांव के लोग थे वो बैठ गए. कुछ समय तक चाणक्य काम करते रहे. उनका काम खत्म हुआ और जैसे उनका काम खत्म हुआ, उन्होंने क्या किया, उन्होंने उनके पास में एक दूसरा दीपक रखा था, उसको जलाया और दूसरे दीपक को जलाने के बाद पहले वाले दीपक को बुझाया और फिर गांव वालों से कहा कि बताइए, मैं आपकी क्या मदद कर सकता हूं. तो गांव के लोगों ने कहा, गुरुदेव, हम जिस मदद के लिए आपके पास में आए हैं उसके बारे में तो आपको बताएंगे, पर उससे पहले आपसे एक सवाल पूछना चाहते हैं. गुरुदेव, ये आपने क्या किया? तो चाणक्य ने पूछा, क्या किया? तो गाँव के जो एक सरपंच थे, उन्होंने कहा, गुरुदेव, हमने देखा कि आपने एक दूसरा जो दीपक रखा था उसको जलाया और दूसरा दीपक जलाने के बाद पहला जो दीपक जल रहा था उसको आपने बुझाया और फिर आपने हमारी तरफ मुखातिब हुए और हमसे पूछा. ये बात कुछ समझ में नहीं आई कि आपने दूसरा दीपक जलाया क्यों, अगर आपको पहला दीपक बुझाना था. चाणक्य सेठ, देखिए, जब आप लोग यहाँ पर आए थे तो मैं अपने सरकारी काम में व्यस्त था अब आप जब मुझसे मिलने के लिए आए हो तो आप व्यक्तिगत काम के लिए मिलने के लिए आए हो. तो जब आप लोग आए थे, जब मैं सरकारी काम कर रहा था, तो ये जो पहला वाला जो लैंप जो जल रहा था, पहला जो दीपक जल रहा था, उसमें जो तेल है वो तेल सरकार के पैसे से डाला हुआ तेल है. लेकिन चूंकि आप मुझसे व्यक्तिगत काम के लिए आए हैं तो मैंने दूसरा दीपक जलाया और वो इसलिए जलाया कि वो जो दूसरा दीपक है उसमें जो तेल है वो तेल मेरी खुद की कमाई का है। तो सरकार का काम करूंगा तो सरकार के तेल के पैसे के तेल का इस्तेमाल करूंगा। और जब आपसे व्यक्तिगत काम के लिए बात हो रही है तो फिर मैं अपनी व्यक्तिगत कमाई का जो पैसा है उसका तेल इस्तेमाल करूंगा। दिस इज कॉल्ड एथिक्स. This is called good governance. And this is the reason why the world today also remember Swami Samarth, Chhatrapati Shivaji and Chanakya. If we have to learn ethics, we not only have to go to distant past, distant history, we can also go to the recent history. And if I have to give you an example of learning ethics about recent history, the example that comes to my mind is of Ghanshyam Das Birla, GD Birla, late Sri Ghanshyam Das Ji Birla. I'm sure all of you would have heard of him. Ghanshyam Das Ji Birla, he is the founder of the Birla Empire that we have in this country. Ghanshyam Das Birla ji wrote a letter to his son B.K. Birla. B.K. Birla was father of Aditya Birla, and Aditya Birla is father of Kumar Mangalam Birla, the current chairman of the Birla Empire that we have in this country. And friends, I would like to share this letter with you as to what Ghanshyam Das Birla ji wrote to his son, to let you know as to what is ethics, to let you know what goes in the minds of the legendary people, what goes in the minds of the true businessmen, businessmen, so as to understand as to what is ethics. And this letter goes like this, and I'm going to read it for all of you. This letter written by Sri Ghanshyam Das Ji Birla to his son B.K. Birla. And remember, and this is to let us know as to what is ethics. This is to let us know what makes Ghanshyam Das Birla Ghanshyam Das Birla. He is writing to his son and he writes, Dear Basant, I advise you to read this letter when you become an adult and are older. So remember, when has he written this letter? This letter Ghanshyam Das Birla ji has written to B.K. Birla, his son B.K. Birla, when B.K. Birla ji was not even an adult. And he writes, I am writing from my experience. To be born as a human being in this world is a rare opportunity. This is true. One who abuses one's body, having obtained the human form, is only an animal. You have received a lot of wealth and good resources. If these are used to serve others, then of course such resources will become useful. If not, they will become a devil's weapon. Pay heed to these principles. And you can see this is what is coming from the mind of Ghanshyam Das Birla ji, and he is writing to his son. And he writes further, number 1, never use wealth for luxury and cheap pleasure. Ravana had indulged in luxury and promiscuity. King Janaka had rendered service. Wealth is never eternal. Wealth is never eternal. Therefore, so long as it lasts, use it for serving others. So long as it lasts, use it for serving others. Use the least possible amount for yourself. Use the least possible amount for yourself. The rest you should spend to alleviate the sorrows of suffering ones. This is called ethics. This is called ethics. And every letter of this world is a golden letter, friends. Golden letter. And he writes further. Point number 2. Wealth is power. Wealth is power. Intoxicated by such power, one may act unjustly towards another. You must be careful about this. You must be careful about this. And he writes further. Do leave this advice for your children. So point number 3, what Ghanshyam Das ji is writing to his son B.K. Birla, he is not only writing to B.K. Birla, but he is also advising his son B.K. Birla, do leave this advice for your children. If they lead a life of comfort and luxury, then they would be committing sin and destroying our business activities. You must not bequeath wealth to such spoilt brats. Before it can reach them, distribute it to the poor. You have to realize that you are the trustee of such wealth. And we brothers have generated this wealth in the hope that you will put it to good uses. And I'm sure every one of you listening to me can feel the impact and the value and the sanskars uh, and the ethics that every word of this letter has. He writes point number 4. Remember, remember always that you hold wealth on behalf of the common citizen. You hold the wealth on behalf of the common citizen. You cannot use it for your selfish ends. Never forget God. He gives right understanding. Keep your senses under control, otherwise, they will drown you. Otherwise, they will drown you. Physical exercise must be done regularly. And remember, this is what the Ghanshyam Das Birla ji writing to his son, young son, who is not even an adult. Physical exercise must be done regularly. And point number 8, he writes, control consumption of food. Those who eat to please the palate die early and cannot work enough. Ghanshyam Das Birla. Now, every word, every letter of this, letter of this letter tells us what? It tells us as to what is ethics. And please understand, this is how a Ghanshyam Das Birla becomes a Ghanshyam Das Birla. This is how you see a Birla empire today, which is more than 100 years old. It doesn't stop here. If we have to learn ethics, we need to learn from the vision of the true businessman. And friends, I am sure you would know that the founder of the Tata Empire that we see today in this country, not in this country, on this earth, was Jamsetji Tata. Jamsetji Tata. And please remember, even before Jamsetji Tata thought of setting the steel plant in Jamshedpur, Jamsetji Tata had earned enough wealth from his trading business and from his textile business. And that wealth was more than enough for all his generations to come. Nonetheless, Jamsetji Tata in the year 2000, in the year 1902, thought of setting up a steel plant. And remember, why did he think of setting up a steel plant? Not because Jamsetji Tata realized that steel plant will give him an opportunity to generate more wealth for himself. No. Jamsetji Tata thought of setting up a steel plant in 1902 because he realized that with the advent of steam, America and Europe was rapidly progressing towards industrialization. And Jamsetji Tata realized that under the colonial rule that we were in, he realized that if something was not done on steel manufacturing, India would lag far behind. And that is how in 1902 he thought of setting up a steel plant. And by the way, remember, by the time the land for steel plant in Jamshedpur was found, Jamsetji Tata was no more. Jamsetji Tata was convalescing in a place in Germany. And from that place in Germany, he wrote to his son Dorav. And he wrote to him. He said, Dorav, when you are setting up this plant in India, in Bharat, make sure the roads that you make are very broad. Make sure there are enough spaces for gardens, for play fields, for the mosques, for the temples, for the churches. And that is what he dreamt of. Unfortunately, Jamsetji Tata passed away much before the steel plant was set up. And it was set up, and first steel was produced from the steel plant of Tata's in July 1912. And remember, why did Jamshedji thought of setting up the steel plant? Because what was on his mind? On his mind was the well-being of the people of his country, well-being of the economy of the country, and that is what we need to understand, and that is what we need to understand and learn from these visionaries as far as what ethic is concerned. And remember, Tata, if it is such a huge empire today, spread globally, or Birlas, if they are such a huge empire spread globally, is all because of the ethics and the standards that they had followed in this country. A lot of people tend to say that it is not possible to grow following the ethics. I think these are the two classic examples, the Birlas and the Tatas. And I'm telling you, I'm just talking about the Birlas and Tatas, but I can tell you there are umpteen of such examples, thousands of such examples, or maybe lakhs of such examples where people have done well despite following the ethics. As a matter of fact, these are the beacon of the good corporate governance. And that is what we need to remember, and that is what we need to understand. Now, with this discussion, friends, as to what is ethics, with this discussion as to what is purpose of a business, with this discussion as to what is purpose of life of every one of us, with this discussion about the linkage and the relationship between the ethics and the purpose of business and good governance, I'm going to move now to the model code of conduct for registered valuers. Now, before I start discussing model code of conduct for registered valuers, I'm going to leave it open to every one of you in case you would like to contribute to something that I've already spoken, and or in case if you have any question, I would be happy to take your question. So at this point in time, and I would also give you some time, leave some time before I close the session for some more question and answers. So this is I'm leaving it open for next few minutes in case if you have any question, any doubt, or in case you would like to contribute to discussion from your side, you're most welcome.